Hey everyone. Welcome to Secrets Behind the Stars. All the twists and feelings are here today, and if the story pulls you in, don't forget to subscribe and help us grow. Now, let's get to the moment that rattled timelines and sent notifications buzzing across every platform. In a surprise that rewrote how people were tracking the day's trends, Barış Baktaş, so often associated with carefully curated posts, smooth interviews, and the shine of effortless success, let his voice carry more than charm. He allowed something raw to surface. What might have been a private aside to a close friend turned into a confession delivered on camera, steady yet unguarded, revealing a man whose past still leaves fingerprints on his present. The interview itself wasn't framed by a dramatic set or a grand entrance. It was simple, almost unremarkable if you glanced at it without sound. But the moment questions edged from career highlights into personal terrain, you could watch a subtle change in Barış's posture, in the cadence of his words. He didn't storm out emotions or stage a spectacle. He leaned on pauses. He let sentences mature. He seemed to be walking through a hallway of memories where laughter hangs in the air and quick snapshots become entire afternoons. And then, as if he were gently opening a door he had kept closed, he spoke the name that reshaped the mood in the room, Yağmur Yüksel. Not tossed in casually, not framed as a footnote, but conjured with the care of someone revisiting a scene that still lives in full color. He didn't say her name like a headline. He said it as though he were tracing shared moments with a fingertip, recalling the texture of days they once moved through together. And then came the line that turned murmurs into a wave. If the rumors of Yağmur taking the next step with the man she is said to be seeing were to become a reality, it would, in his words, feel like losing something that never fully let go of him. It would confirm, finally and completely, the end of a hope he hadn't been ready to bury. He didn't dress it up. He didn't blame. He offered the truth of where his heart was, and the sincerity tightened the air around the cameras as though a studio could suddenly feel smaller. What might have been another clip in a sea of interviews instead became a cultural flashpoint. Because this was not about a polished image being slightly scuffed. It was about how a person, who has built an entire public life on control and presentation, showed the soft underside of that life. It revealed how even those lauded for their composure carry frailties, and it reminded everyone that the emotions of public figures are never allowed to belong only to them. By simply stating a feeling, Barış turned his own story into a mirror. People saw pieces of their own unresolved chapters, their own what-ifs, and their own moments of waiting. The reactions came fast. Within minutes, timelines split into camps, and the algorithm turned his confession into a test case for how we interpret vulnerability. Some praised the courage, a man speaking without armor, saying out loud what so many hide because it's messy. Others rolled their eyes at the exposure, calling it a misstep or an unnecessary disclosure that drags private matters into a spotlight that burns. Forums filled with interpretations. Was this a last attempt to knock on a door he no longer had the right to open, or was it a way to seal something that had been left ajar for too long? And in all of this, the one person who could tip the conversation in any direction, Yağmur, said nothing. Silence can be louder than any statement, and hers was immediately measured. Some read it as grace, a decision to avoid pouring fuel onto a fire sparked by the heat of a confession. Others thought it reflected being taken by surprise, that there were complicated emotions to untangle before a word could safely leave her mouth. Those around her kept their lips sealed too, which meant that every new post, every absence of a like, every caption with a carefully chosen sentence, became a clue people stretched into a narrative. It's only a few minutes on camera, and yet the ripples reached far beyond just two people. There is a broader question here. How audiences now treat romance like a series to binge, each episode dissected. A love story that once belonged to two hearts becomes a shared project for countless eyes. And the transformation of this moment into a story says something about the price of being known, and how tenderness, when it escapes the boundaries of private rooms, turns into content. For those who have followed Yağmur's rise, her poise, her precision with image, the way she creates presence even in still photographs. This confession added a layer of intrigue. She has been admired not just for what she shows but for what she holds back. So Barış's words were never going to be read solely as sentimental. They felt like a magnifying glass placed over the fault lines of fame, showing that admiration and speculation are siblings in the celebrity universe. And if the rumors surrounding her possible step toward commitment with someone new were to harden into facts, the public storyline would tilt instantly into melodrama territory: a ring, a decision, a step forward, and a man watching a door close too firmly to keep calling it half open. Journalists and commentators split almost right away. One line of thinking argued that Barış needed to give shape to feelings that had floated in shadow, to call them by name and let them leave his chest. The other camp insisted that he understood better than anyone how confession travels, how cameras turn personal storms into weather forecasts, and that maybe the timing was not accidental. It's difficult to measure intent, but it isn't hard to see the imprint of humanity in what he said. Honest words have a way of activating memories we thought were numb. As the debate intensified, the calculus of image and authenticity came to the forefront. The man who once felt like a master of the cool approach showed that under neatly folded suits and calm answers, there is a softness that never disappeared. He spoke as if the part of him that keeps face and the part of him that keeps feeling had finally decided to meet. And that collision, between the visible and the hidden, has always drawn the largest audience. Dear viewers of Secrets Behind the Stars, this is where the questions begin to echo. Is there a responsibility to keep quiet when you live in front of a crowd, or does speaking honestly count as respect for that very crowd? If you were in the place of Yağmur Yüksel, would you step out and answer, or would you choose not to let a public moment pull you into an arena you didn't enter willingly? And what about those reports that whisper about a future promise from someone new? Should that be hurried, slowed, or simply allowed to find its own timing, untouched by anything except what two people feel? The answers, as always, split down the lines of personal experience. While users stitched together theories and timelines, something else became clear: that in this era, we treat romance as an open-source document. The public adds annotations. The press adds footnotes. Even silence becomes a paragraph. And Barış's words didn't just mark a page, they revised the index. Those close to him say that this wasn't a rehearsed moment. They say the room's ambience turned inward when a small question cracked open a long-kept door. He remembered small scenes, they say, a joke that was only funny because they shared the same context, a day that ended too fast because both wished it wouldn't, the sting of realizing certain sentences had been left unsaid when it still mattered. He didn't cry on camera. He didn't plead. He simply allowed the gravity of what he felt to sit there, visible. It was a simple framing with a powerful consequence, and that is precisely why the clip will be watched and rewatched long past the day it was recorded. Meanwhile, the pressure around Yağmur's silence simmered like an unwritten message everyone kept refreshing, waiting to see if it would arrive. Those who care about her work pointed out that she has always built her profile by balancing charm with boundaries. They argued that she, more than anyone, understands that not every story needs a public answer, especially when the risk of being misunderstood is high. Others believed that even a brief response, kind but firm, could diffuse speculation before it morphed into folklore. Every hour without a statement bred a new branch of theories. And yet, maybe there is something wise about resisting the impulse to perform when the subject is something as intimate as the residue of a love that walked away but didn't vanish. It's striking how quickly a private sentiment can invite society into judgment. The triangle painted by rumor may not be a shape anyone chose, and still it becomes a map the audience follows, searching for signs in streetlights and billboards. The truth might be simpler: two people loved, then life moved. But the power of a confession in the age of replay is undeniable. It can pull the past into the present like a tide that refuses to check the clock. Even the professionals who break down public narratives found themselves choosing vocabulary carefully. Some described the moment as a reckoning with memory. Others, more cynical, leaned into words like tactic and leverage. Yet the clip itself resists easy labeling. It feels less like a play and more like a private feeling that's slipped into a place where nothing stays private for long. And that's the paradox of being known: the very things that make someone relatable can turn them into a case study. Here is what also stands out. When fame meets tenderness, the world leans closer. Audiences are drawn not just to gowns, premieres, and deals, but to the visible pulse of a real heart. That is where the fascination charges itself. It is the collision between image and ache, between what gets photographed and what keeps you awake at night. In a way, we watched Barış admit he still hears footsteps in a hallway that no one else can see. For those who want us to keep digging, who the man is that newspapers connect to Yağmur, where the timelines cross, who said what and when, leave your thoughts below. If you like this kind of in-depth storytelling, if you want a closer look at the legal and emotional fabric that wraps around Turkey's most talked about names, or if you have leads you want us to follow, tell us. Your perspective gives shape to the work we do, and it helps us decide where to look next. At Secrets Behind the Stars, our aim is not just to repeat headlines but to explore the forces that make them matter. The nerves beneath the glamour, the choices that turn into chapters, and the cost of telling the truth when a microphone is involved. If you want to support deeper dives, here are easy ways to help. Subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you want more stories like this, and if you're ready to stand closer with us, consider joining as a member for exclusives that keep our investigations moving. Beyond the drama of two names spoken in a quiet studio, today's confession presses on a larger question about boundaries. Where does a feeling belong in the digital age? Is it safer kept in the dark or kinder when shared, knowing that sharing means losing control of how it will be held? Maybe the most honest answer is that neither option erases the ache. If the day comes when a ring glints on another hand beside Yağmur's, this clip will be revisited as the moment the echo of a lingering affection became audible to everyone. If there is a reply from her, soft, sharp, or somewhere between, then we'll see how two people redefine a narrative that millions think they own. And if nothing follows except the slow fading of urgency, it will still be remembered that, for a brief moment, the curated shine parted. Under it, a familiar truth was visible. Some loves don't vanish, they simply learn to live in quieter rooms. Thank you for watching Secrets Behind the Stars. Stay safe, be kind in the comments, and we'll see you next time.